A database can be defined as an electronic filing cabinet. It can be used to store and organise data, and is quite efficient at that. It's a software application and often bundled with a number of other applications in a suite. A good example of that is Microsoft Office. The database application in Microsoft Office is called Access. The database application contains a number of objects for storing and manipulating data. These include a table. Now we're going to be talking about tables a bit later on, but essentially they're like a grid of columns and rows, a bit like a spreadsheet. A query is an object or a function which produces table-like results, but what it does is it searches through the table and matches data with search criteria that you put into your query. A form is an object by which either it can easily view data of each record in the table, or can be used to enter data into a table. By the way, both queries and forms and reports, which I'll talk about in a moment, can either work with single table databases or relational databases which have multiple tables, which we'll talk about a bit later on. And a report is a way of getting the data out of a table and making some sense of it. So a report can either display information on a screen or in a document which can be printed out. The report will have headings and formats and so on that will make the data in the table make it more understandable. Finally, a script or macro is a program which can be written to automate the database, so a number of steps can be done automatically, or else tasks can be carried out that normally are not available to that data. Tables are used in databases as the initial data organization tool. And let's look at a very simple database that's been used to store an address book, and we'll see columns of data in the table, and these could include categories such as name, address, town, postcode and phone. Very simple database. These categories of data are called fields of the table. Each column in a table represents a category of data, and as we just said, it's called a field. So if we go through this table, we've got name, address, town, postcode and phone. So each one of those columns that we highlighted there is a field in itself. It is one category of data. Fields can be set up to hold specific data, and we set the data type of the field. Some of the data types available for us to define for fields are text. Now text can have any character, alphanumeric. Obviously the numeric characters in text don't have any value. So for instance, if you've got an address and it's 10 High Street, then the 10 for the 10 doesn't have any value but does indicate something in the text. A number field means that you've got numeric characters which do have value. Date and time, for instance, if you included a birthday field in this address book, then you'd probably format the field with a date, time, data type. You can also have yes, no or true, false fields. They allow one or the other option. They're often called Boolean fields, and they allow things like a tick box. It can have a tick in it or not, or something like that. Records in a table are the rows. So each row of the record contains a set of data or a set of fields that makes up information regarding the entity or the organization which the database is about. So each of these fields which we're highlighting now, each of those groups of fields, that group of fields is a record. And so each row is a record, each column is a field. And we're going to be studying two types of database. There actually are other types of database, but the two that we'll be looking at are flat file databases, and this involves one table database system. So the address book that we just talked about is a one table flat file database. The other sort that we'll be looking at are relational database management systems, or RDBMS for short. These involve multiple tables and they're linked by similar fields which have similar data characteristics. That means your rows in each table are linked, or a row in a table is linked to a column in one table is linked to a column in another table. In the next presentation, there'll be some more information on relational database system when we look at the station video case study, and also in the podcasts on database and the notes there are more information as well.